I'd like to call this December meeting of the Pineal Shores Board of Commissioners to order. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Does anybody wish to add or delete any items?
I have an addition. I'd like to add a brief thing on sidewalks under new business.
Okay, so under item 9,
Make it C.
we'll add, if no one objects, we'll add a C that says sidewalks, please, for a quick
Thank you.
update. And I would like to add, after item 12, the mayor and commissioners reports, I'd like to add an item 13, closed session to discuss personnel issues. And then when we come out of the closed session, I'll add an item number 14, which will be Board of Commissioners action on the town manager's employment contract. And then item 15 will be adjournment. Does anybody have any objections to those changes or any additional additions or deletions they'd like to make?
Will they be approved as amended?
Okay. We have a motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. It's unanimous. Next item on the agenda is the disclosures and conflicts of interest. Does anybody have any, based on the agenda we just approved, any disclosures or conflicts that they would like to mention?
None.
None.
None?
No.
Okay, no disclosures or conflicts of interest. Next item is the announcements. I'm going to add a couple of additional announcements to what we have listed here. One is that the Sidewalk Survey deadline for submitting your input is Friday, December 10th. So if anybody out there hasn't completed their Sidewalk Survey yet, you've got 2 days left to do it. Then this year, Christmas and New Year's, I believe, are on a Saturday. So Town Hall will be closed on Friday, the 24th, and Friday, the 31st of December. Our next meeting will be on January 12th. And we're going to have 2 meetings in January this year because on January 19th, a week later, the Board of Commissioners and the Strategic Planning Committee will be meeting to discuss the new Pineal Shores Strategic Plan that I believe Brian circulated to everybody this afternoon. So you should have that along with the presentation that John Ferguson will be making at this January 19th meeting to summarize and bring everybody up to date on where we stand on the strategic plan.
Is that still at 2 o'clock?
That's going to be 2 o'clock, yes.
Thank you.
And we may, at our January 12th meeting, do a quick kind of a round the horn discussion to see if anybody has any initial first impressions on the strategic plan in advance of that January 19th meeting where we'll go into greater detail. There's one other issue that I'd like to just put out there for people to keep in mind, and that is on February 24th, the Carteret County Beach Commission Shore Protection Office is going to do an orientation presentation on the Carteret County's 50-year master beach plan for elected officials, especially newly elected officials, just to bring everybody up to speed on what the Shore Protection Office is, what the master beach plan is, and how the Beach Commission works and everything else like that. It's going to be February 24th from 3 to 5 in the Emerald Isle conference room in Emerald Isle. Conference room. It's It's in the same building as their police department, or the boardroom, I mean. But I'll give everybody a reminder on that at a future date. Okay, that brings us to item 5, public comment.
I received one request from Joseph Connolly, and I see he's online right now. Joe, I'm about to unmute you, and you can make your comment.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Good evening, everyone. Joseph Connolly, 106 Walnut Circle. Just want to say formally, I do not want sidewalks. I don't need all 3 minutes to say that, so I'll keep it short and sweet.
All right, thank you.
Does anybody have anything they'd like to respond to Mr. Connolly on sidewalks? Okay, thank you, Mr. Connolly. Moving right along, next item is the consent agenda. There are 2 items there. The minutes from our last meeting on November 10th and tax discoveries and releases. Does anybody have any changes, amendments, or questions to the minutes from the last meeting? Commissioner Connect.
I believe in the very first paragraph, my understanding that our assistant town manager, Julie, was here at that meeting. She's not noted there. Because further on, she did give a report. So I think she should be added. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
And then one other addition on page 5 of our packet would be the 3rd page of the minutes under subparagraph E, the station club contract. There was a motion to approve and a second, but never said what the action was. It should add the motion passed unanimously, as I recall.
Yes. You got that, Charlie?
Yes, sir.
Anybody else?
No.
I move we approve the consent agenda as amended.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the consent agenda. Everyone in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. Unfinished business. We have 1 item under there, the criminal code changes, our 2nd reading and adoption. And I'll ask Brian Kramer to summarize that one for us, please.
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, and do we have Neil on?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Neil. So just a reminder, this is a 2nd reading, so we can approve this tonight, and that's ultimately what I'll request the board to do. And again, as a reminder, this allows us to charge selected elements of our code as crimes, all as misdemeanors, but criminally as well. And just again, a quick recap. This was gone over by myself, Sonny, Jason, and Ryan in Chapter 26. Some general safety requirements in town, as well as fire hazards, outdoor fires and such. Chapter 34, septic tanks and sewage regulations regarding septic tanks and sewage treatment plants. In Chapter 38, town ordinances regarding peddling, soliciting, disorderly conduct, noise, firearms, and hazardous material. Most of those came from Ryan. We selected from Chapter 46, the beach bulldozing and dune protection ordinance. Chapter 54, that's our water ordinance. That section regards preventing people from tampering with our water systems. In Chapter 58, regarding some building and restrictions. So again, we talked about this in a little bit of detail last month, but recommend the board approve these. And then we can enforce them criminal if we have to as a last resort.
We've, this is our 2nd look at these, but I'll ask if anybody have any questions or comments. Clark.
I reluctantly just have a nitpicking point.
What
On
page?
page 11 at the bottom. There's the addition of C1, I'm not sure, affected, I think it leaves out how.
Sure.
How affected?
How effective the threat of criminal enforcement will be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know it's
good catch.
nitpicking, I'm sorry, but
I don't believe that will change anything if we add the word how in there, should it?
I'm not sure if that's not something that we left in as a comment. Neil, look at the bottom of page 11. I think that entire sentence was a editing comment between Melissa and I that we left in here.
But then it should all be erased then.
Oh, it's not part of the ordinance anyhow, just
Right.
a memorandum.
Now, that is not a part of the ordinance. The ordinance begins on page 13.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
No.
Let's entertain a motion.
Just one minor correction, and that is on the last page of the ordinance. The signature block for our mayor's name is misspelled again.
Oh.
I would catch that before I signed it. Okay, with those changes, we have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
No.
If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Next,
John, you skipped over the tax discoveries.
oh,
It was a
that
consent
was
agenda.
just part of the consent agenda. I just didn't introduce it or talk about it. But we had a motion to approve the entire.
Okay.
There's really not much to talk about there. I think it was a change of $39 or something.
16 cents.
Okay, that brings us to the swearing in of new commissioners. But before we get to that, I'd like to recognize Commissioner Porcello for his outstanding work on behalf of the town during the past 12 years. And we have a little gift here for Larry in recognition of the service for the town.
Oh,
Says here,
wow.
Larry Porcello, Commissioner, 2009 to 2021, the town of Pineal Shores. And we also have a card for Larry from the staff recognizing his, I'll hand this.
You can put cookies on it. There you go. It's not quite a gold Rolex, but it'll do.
At least it crumbs.
Hey, Kramer wants a vote.
As I said, Larry has been a commissioner for 3 terms, 12 years, and he missed being reelected for a 4th term by only a few votes. I think there were
About
There's
16.
just 30 votes really separating the highest vote getter from the lowest vote getter in the, of the 4 commissioners, people who are running. Larry was a very good commissioner, and I want to thank him for his exemplary service to the town. Larry will continue to represent us on the County Beach Commission, and we hope to keep Larry involved through participation in one of our citizens committees or on an ad hoc basis, so we can continue to take advantage of his financial expertise, his experience, and his knowledge of the town. And Larry knows everybody here, everybody knows Larry, and I really want to thank him for his service from the bottom of my heart. Please, everybody.
Speech.
Yeah, we can still do that. Thank you, John. I appreciate all the kind words. It's been very enjoyable and rewarding to be able to serve that term, these terms. And I enjoyed it. I think the town accomplished a lot during all that time by all the commissioners that were on board during those years. And we're well positioned to go forward, and you've got a good group of commissioners going forward from here. So I'm comfortable the town will stay in very good hands as it moves. So I'll pull up some old memories from being an old guy, and I'll say thanks for the memories and happy trails to all. Thank you, Doug, Bob Hope, and Roy Rogers.
I'm glad you stayed on the beach.
Yeah.
We are older than that,
Yeah, we all remember that.
except for Brian.
I'll just over there then. You guys are doing your stuff.
At this point, we're going to swear in the commissioners and the mayor who were elected to a new term. And I think first we'll swear in new commissioner, Robert Cox, who I would also like to welcome to the Pineal Shores Board of Commissioners. If you please come up here, Robert. Just go this way.
Alicia, could you
Okay, the bill.
place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand? I, Robert Cox,
I, Robert Cox,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, defend, and maintain
that I will support, defend, and maintain
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully perform and discharge
and that I will faithfully perform and discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as a member of the Town of Pineal Shores Board of Commissioners,
as a member of the Town of Pineal Shores Board of Commissioners,
according to the best of my skill and ability,
according to the best of my skill and ability,
so help me God.
so help me God. Sign something? Got a pen? I had one. I guess it's over there.
It has ink that evaporates, Robert, so look out.
This is invisible ink. Is that what you're saying, Mark?
Well, it's visible for a few seconds.
Okay, Alicia, you're next.
Okay.
Can this be done together? Can it be done together? It wasn't fast.
Charlie said he preferred to do it separately.
Okay.
Well, I asked to do it separately because I thought we were going to have family members.
Does this go with the seat, Larry?
I don't think so.
Robert, you just lost a coat.
Change.
Left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand.
I thought I had it right.
Repeat after me. I, Alicia Durham,
I, Alicia Durham,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly
that
swear
I will support, defend, and maintain
that I will support, defend, and maintain
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent with therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully perform and discharge
and I will faithfully perform and discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as a member of the Town of Pineal Shores Board of Commissioners,
as a member of the Town of Pineal Shores Board of Commissioners,
according to my best skill and ability,
according to my best skill and ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Next, Commissioner Connect.
Repeat after me. I, William Connect,
I, William Connect,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, defend, and maintain
that I will support, defend, and maintain
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully perform and discharge
that I will faithfully perform and
the
discharge
duties of my office
the duties of my office
as a member of the Town of Pineal Shores
As-
Board of Commissioners,
as a member of the Town of Pineal Shores Board of Commissioners,
according to my best skill and ability,
according to my best skill and ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Right hand on Bible,
Left hand on the Bible.
left hand.
Repeat after me. I, John Broadman,
I, John Broadman,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, defend, and maintain
that I will support, defend, and maintain
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith.
not inconsistent therewith.
And I will faithfully perform and discharge
And I will faithfully perform and discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as the mayor of the town of Pineal Shores
as the mayor of the town of Pineal Shores,
according to my best skill and ability.
according to my best skill and ability.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you, Charles.
Hey, Larry and John, can I get a picture of Larry with his silver Frisbee?
Ryan,
So,
do you want to get Larry and Jan with the commissioners that they serve with the platter?
Yeah, why don't you come up? That's a good idea. Jan, why don't you come up?
Brian.
Good
We're gonna
idea.
be staying behind.
Yeah.
Or does they want us to
How about, yeah, get right up here.
come around?
The background's supposed to be next to a spreadsheet. Words over it. Or do you want?
You on that side? And we'll go three. Three on each side. Close up. Close up. 1, 2, 3, picture.
Jeez.
1, 2.
That should be a nice shoreline picture.
Good.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Brian, how about one with the new commissioner?
Pardon?
The new commissioner.
Yeah.
Hit the back. And make it.
Don't look it down. You have another photo shoot.
This button's only gonna last so long.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Who knows?
1, 2, 3. Make sure this stays back. 1, 2, 3, picture. Got it. Any more?
All right. You're getting a workout as a photographer today.
Oh.
Go ahead.
We'll get one more with Larry here.
All right. Oh, yeah, well, that's the official thing that should have happened.
Oh, shoot.
Oops, get out of here.
Take 15 minutes.
They were telling me from Larry.
Good.
That's right. No, it's fine. Yeah, we'll bring it back.
Okay, that's enough of that.
All right.
You take yours, I'll take
Now we gotta get down to work. Okay. Congratulations, everyone. Next item on our agenda here is new business. And we have the Pineal Shores premium pay policy to consider. And at the end of the presentation by the town manager here, we'll have some discussion and hopefully we'll vote to approve the Pineal Shores premium pay policy that's laid out in your package here. Okay, Julie.
Okay, good evening. Good evening. Do I need to pull this up soon? Okay. Just want to make sure everybody that's online can hear okay. So I want to start off, if we can start on my first slide, Charlie, if that's up on the thing. Just with a little bit of background on the American Rescue Plan Act for the public. And then just as a rehash, I think I've explained to all of you just kind of the background behind this. So the American Rescue Plan Act was passed by the federal government in March of 2021. And the goals of that act were to support public health response to COVID-19 and lay the foundation for a strong and equitable economic recovery. The act, like I said, was passed in March 2019. Guidance for that act followed shortly thereafter, with further guidance coming out as time went on. So this was a disbursement that came directly to the town. It was sent from the federal government through the states to what they call entitlement and non-entitlement government. We receive, and our disbursements are in two parts. Our total disbursement will be about $423,000, of which we received 50% in July of 2021. Payments from ARP's fiscal recovery funds can be used or obligated by December 2024. So just for clarification, what that means is if there's anything the board plans to use that money for in the future, they don't have to spend it by 2024, but you need to obligate it, maybe contract with someone if your expenses will be beyond 2024. If you will go to the next slide, Charlie. So one of the guidance documents that came out for this was called the Interim Final Rule. And there are several aspects to this rule. And then there are supplemental documents that have come out since then. And what that interim final rule tells us is what we are allowed to spend that money on. At first, it was just kind of very general categories, or it wasn't entirely specific. But the general idea is that 5 areas you can spend that money on. Supporting public health in this pandemic. Is that me?
Oh, it's Bill.
Okay. I was like, I don't know, I'm touching that. So supporting public health, address the negative economic impacts caused by this public health emergency, replace lost public sector revenue. So if during the pandemic we had, and the best example is like a loss in our sales and use tax historical revenue, we could kind of basically reimburse ourselves for lost revenue. We did not have that. Provide premium pay for essential workers, and the last category is invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure, which also includes stormwater. So there's, in the guidance, there's kind of a wide berth to local governments in determining the spending as long as it's within those categories. And then, like I said, there's been supplemental documents that have come out that then require further things of you if you plan to spend this money. And an example of that is that if we want to provide premium pay to our essential workers, this governing body needs to pass a policy of what that looks like. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. If you'll go to the next slide, Charlie, please. So premium pay is intended for essential workers, and that it's to support those who have borne or will bear the greatest health risks during the pandemic, service in critical sectors like healthcare, public health and safety, childcare, education, the list goes on and on. And basically, the chief executive of the recipient of the money has discretion to add sectors that they deem critical or to determine who is considered an essential worker, although the interim final rule kind of gives a definition of that. It's work involving, essential work is work involving regular in-person interactions or regular physical handling of items that were also handled by others. According to the federal law, you cannot provide premium pay for periods of teleworking. This proposed premium pay policy is a one-time bonus for the period of January 20th, 2020, which is the federal date that they said this basically emergency condition happened. That's the Fema date of COVID-19 pandemic through 12/31/2021. And the guidance says you are to prioritize compensation to lower income eligible essential workers. And there is kind of this, there's this whole metric of looking at your employees. And if you hit a level, if an employee hits a level of 150% of your state or county's mean average annual wage, then you are still allowed to provide premium pay to them. But when I do, so there's going to be reporting requirements with this, like with all the other federal stuff that we have. When I make those reports to the federal government, I need to explain why those people with that income level are being paid premium pay using ARP money. Okay. If
Can I
you,
ask a question or would you rather wait?
sure, yeah.
No, on the 150% of state and county average annual wage. So that's not by employment category. That's just for all employees.
All,
So it's kind of a,
yeah. So it's a very big,
English
and
number.
so it's, and whichever one is higher. And so looking at Carteret County and the state of North Carolina one was higher, but it's across all jobs.
Yeah.
And so I believe the number for North Carolina was $51,110, some figure like that. So yeah, at first I had done a lot of research to find out what's the, mean average wage of a paramedic in North Carolina. It's not even,
Yeah.
it's not that detailed. It's all jobs.
Okay. Thank you.
Next slide, Charlie. Okay, so in the Pineal Shores premium pay policy, we as the government, or as this policy is written, are saying that all full-time employees perform essential work because we are a government service providing essential needs to the public. So the way that this policy has been developed is we have developed 3 tiers of workers among our full-time staff, and it's all full-time employees. So our level 1 eligible employees are fire and EMS, police, our water services operator, and our building inspector, because those are the people that throughout the entire time period were with the public out on the street. The level 2 would be our public works. So not Sunny necessarily, but the rest of public works, because they also too were out handling, out on the street, but handling people's things a lot more than the level 3 employees, which would be everybody else. Administration, finance, planning, and human resources. And so in the interim final rule, they're saying, so pay close attention to who is at the highest risk, and then pay close attention to your income levels of your people. So the next part of that is to say, so our base premium payments for those various levels, level 1, $20 a week for each week of work during the public health emergency. Level 2, $15 a week for each week of work during the public health emergency. And level 3, $10 a week. And then when we look at the income levels of all of our employees, then to focus on those lower wage earners, we are then doing an additional adjustment based on annual salary. So if an employee makes less than 2/3 of the state annual mean wage, their premium pay would be increased by 25%. If they're in that 68 to 100% range, their premium pay will be increased by 10%. If they're 101 to 125, their premium pay will be decreased by 10%. And if they're greater than 125% of the state annual mean wage, their premium pay would be decreased by 25%. So I'm starting off with a basis that is across the board based on the number of weeks you worked. And we're minusing out if you teleworked for the period when any of us were home, minusing that out. If you started with us further on in the pandemic, you're prorated for that. But then beyond that, then applying the kind of proration, or it's not really a good word, of what your annual salary is, and then adjusting for the lower income workers. Okay?
Julie,
Yes.
the dollar figures that are provided for level 1 and then the adjustments,
Yes.
were those numbers, did you come up with those numbers in-house, or were they guidance from federal government or somewhere else?
But I came up with them, we came up with them in-house because there's no guidance on dollar figure. So yeah, the only guidance on a dollar figure is that you cannot, so number one, if and if an employee already received compensation related to working during a public health emergency, like some governments paid hazard pay, some industries paid hazard pay. If somebody received that, you cannot give them premium pay. And then the other parameter was it can't be more than $25,000 a year. So that's really was the only dollar.
Julie, just as a clarification, kind of following what Commissioner Knet said, in the morass of bureaucracy that you are dealing with here, the policy that is constructed here, there was no guidance. There's no template for this policy. You pretty well derived this policy yourself.
Correct.
And all of the details and the mechanics, if you will, of this policy are all in-house.
Yes.
So the amount of work and the thinking that went into this was pretty much out of Julie. You might have had some help, maybe Brian, but to me, I don't have any issue with what you're proposing here. But to me, one of the real pieces of benefit here is just how much work went into this document, creating it out of zero guidance, but to be an equitable and a fair way of sharing what folks are going to get. Is that a fair statement?
That's true. And part of the thing, so there is so much, these things are happening so quickly. We had the interim final rule. I have searched that interim final rule, I can't tell you how many times on PDF for the word policy. Nowhere in the interim final rule does it say you have to have a policy. Then there's more ARP stuff coming out every day. There's a further document that then talks about compliance and guidance or whatever. Not the official US Treasury interim final rule. It's another document by the US Treasury that came out sometime later that talks about having a policy, and it's like buried in somewhere. And thankfully, the School of Government, so one of the professors at the School of Government, Kara Melanzi, who I believe is, she is a financial whiz, but I think she might also be an attorney, but I'm not sure of that. She's kind of been the point person for everything ARP, and she has said, so you need to have a policy in place. The School of Government has put out a checklist of what you need to have in this, what you need to make sure you do for the policy and for implementation. And so it's a little bit of crystal ball. What do they mean by this? And how do I implement it and make it fair? And follow everything that they're saying to do.
But is this, what are the other towns in Carteret County doing? Are they following similar kind of, or are they all coming up with their own policy?
So, right. So I believe they're all coming up. I think several have voted to do premium pay. I think Emerald Isle was developing a policy. Last I talked to Sarah, because we kind of talked to each other, they were going to develop a policy. Back to the School of Government, Kara Melanzi has asked municipalities to give her their policies so that she can help share them, because she's getting inundated with emails from governments to help. And when I looked on the School of Government website, there was one for the city of Durham, which is nowhere near like Pineal Shores, but at least it was somewhere to start. And theirs was just a few pages because they have, I think they were allocated some crazy amount of money. And they're doing premium pay. And the way they did it was like every employee gets, I think it was 5% of their annual salary. And then they adjusted upper for, various income levels. So it's soup to nuts. And when you look at the listserv, I don't know if you've heard us talk in the past about listserv. So Brian and I are on manager's listserv. I'm on finance listserv. I mean, we're on everything. I mean, everybody in this and staff is on their own one. And it's been a constant thing. Anybody have a premium pay policy that we can, look at? There wasn't much to look at.
I think this is an excellent piece of work and very creative. Yeah, does anybody have any other comments or
I
questions?
have one more slide, just to give you kind of the kind of the implementation part, if you go to that. So as far as implementation goes, this table shows you the number of eligible employees by level, how many in that level were prorated for one reason or another. Most of them, for level 1, most of them was because they weren't here throughout the whole pandemic. That's why they're being prorated. Same thing really with level 2. Level 3, those being prorated are being prorated for the time that they were remote working. And then so then we have total across all full-time employees that we are considering for premium pay. There's 6 that exceed the 150% annual mean wage. 3 of them are level 3 workers. And actually, this is of all full-time employees. And then in level 1, there's 3 that exceed the 150%. The last column shows you the estimated cost of implementation using ARP and other town funds. Now, like I was saying about the 150% threshold, and you can see on the very last bullet, for level 2 and level 3 employees whose annual salary is above the 150% threshold, ARP funds will not be used to provide premium payments for them. So I am proposing that we use other town funds for those. And it's not that I would not be able to easily explain, and I'll throw myself under the bus easily because I'm one of those people. It's not that I wouldn't be able to explain to the US Treasury why my job is essential, why I would be.
I could. Yes, yes.
Why I wouldn't, so why I couldn't use ARP funds for my premium pay. But I believe it is easier explained for our fire chief and EMS chief, our police chief and water services operator.
Well, what we're looking at here is, for the level 1 people, a little more than $2,000 in terms of premium pay per person and that covers a 2-year period of time.
Right.
20 and 21. So that's like $1,000 a year. And for the level 3 people, I mean, you're looking at something less than $1,000 in premium pay for the whole 2-year period. So that's like $500 a year. I mean, we're yes.
I have a question. My understanding is our town managers elected not to be part of this. Is that correct?
So
and we actually can do in approving this policy, is the budget amendment that you have on the agenda next, does that go along with this?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You want one,
Why don't just do one motion?
or you want 2 votes?
I would probably prefer to have 2 separate board actions.
One for
Simply
the policy and
one for the policy, one for the budget amendment, because the budget amendment also, I wanted to just talk a wee bit about the budget amendment
Okay.
for further action that we want to take with that. So if we could do the premium policy vote first, then I can go on to talk about.
I move the premium policy as put forth and explained,
I will
Gonna cover
second, I'll second it, John.
19 to 22, just so it's a reference point.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Robert, go ahead, Bill.
Yes. Surely the numbers that you prepared here for the level 1, 2, and 3, ARP funds 51,000, for example. Does that include the additional Social Security and other withholdings?
So that is any pay that, a government employee receives, it has to be full on. So the ARP funds include all taxes, retirement, all of that.
Okay.
It's all encompassing. So
And with respect to the level 3, the $2,000, does that figure also include the town share of Social Security and
yes.
other benefits and retirement and so forth?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. It's the full financial impact too. Yes.
Just a clarification, Julie, the town received how much, what was the number again in the ARP?
Oh, so so far we've received 221,000 and change. We will receive a total of just under 423,000.
Okay,
So
so
receiving it in two parts.
ultimately of the 422 or so thousand, what we're saying is we're going to spend 60,000 or so of that amount,
Mhm.
which leaves us somewhere in the neighborhood of 300.
360.
Yeah, 360 some odd thousand. So that 360 remaining is not yet determined how we're going to spend it, or it is.
Only a small part of it, which comes into the budget amendment discussion next.
Okay.
Mhm.
And the amount that we received, this was not as a request by the town. And as I think you and I discussed earlier, who knows what the calculation was as it relates to how much money each municipality would receive. This is just our share and we're getting it whether we want it or not. Is that a fair statement?
Mhm.
Okay,
That's
we
correct.
could send it back if we wanted to.
And it would go to other, it would be redistributed.
Somebody else.
Yeah.
I think that's what.
I don't think that motion will occur tonight.
No, I
No,
don't.
no, I think we want to consider that.
Okay, any further discussion?
One additional item, the 2,000 coming from the town funds, I don't have a real problem with that, but if there's a chance that it could come from the ARP funds, why don't we at least try that?
Mhm.
And if they don't approve that, then we take it out of the town funds.
Right.
But will it be more headache for Julie later in life or?
Is it worth the
I don't know
extra
that it'll
step?
I don't know that it will truly matter that much.
Okay.
I don't really foresee that. I just know that for the three others, that's a slam dunk. I don't think it's not a slam dunk for, the others that are included in the other town funds. I'm just saying that,
Should we,
That's my suggestion, why use town funds if we can use other funds for it?
mhm.
do we want to amend the motion at this point or?
That's okay with me.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
As long as it's okay
We'll
with
try-
Julie.
We'll try for the ARP funds first and then if, why don't we just say if the ARP funds aren't forthcoming, that we'll then use $2,000 from
That's,
the
Yes,
town.
it's part of the motion.
that's fine, yes.
Okay.
Just one more question. When does this money actually show up in somebody's bank account?
So I was looking to get this in employees' bank accounts at the early part of next week.
Mhm.
This year yet.
Yes.
Before Christmas, that's the goal.
So if it results in the US Treasury saying, no, we don't like that $2,000, that's easy enough for me to move that later on.
Okay.
It's going to happen, what I'm saying.
As a budget amendment.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, I think we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you, Julie. Budget amendment, next step.
Yes. So the one thing I wanted to mention on the budget amendment, when we first established this special revenue fund for this, I'm going to call it a grant, but it's not necessarily a grant we applied for, but it's a public ordinance. We had just established it with a set, here's revenue, here's expenses. We don't know what we're using them for, carry on. This kind of gets us a little bit more to specificity, and you'll see that I have on that budget amendment, I have $10,000 for, I think it's the public health expenses. I don't have it in front of me, not exactly.
Yeah.
That is for the COVID testing kits that we're using to test employees and, committee members and all of that stuff. So that is being paid out of ARP because that is a clear use of the first authorized expense using ARP money. And then the rest of it is the premium pay, which I believe I rounded up a little bit to 62, 63. 63. So with Bill's motion, I'm covered to do the 2,000 from that. And the only reason I had put 63 was because just in case something in a tax calculation or whatever comes out crazy. But so as we move forward and determine what we want to use these funds for, we're going to have repeats of this budget amendment thing where I'm kind of moving it from like a holding tank is the lack of a better word, where the board's going to say, okay, we're now moving this into an infrastructure category or whatever we want to do. And then we'll continue to amend so that the board is taking action every time they make a decision on what they're using this money for.
Got it.
It makes sense. So that's all I wanted to say about the budget amendment, is just so you understood going forward.
Yeah, that's a good question. This isn't meant to come out of way left field, okay? But my question is the following. From having read what the proportion of these funds were for and so forth, and public health, and you making the comment that part of these under public health was for test kits and so forth. I'm wondering if under this, there's any provision, or if it makes sense to provide an opportunity for citizens. I think there should be a cost, but to be able to get test kits within, so I would presume it should be landowners, not just residents, but anyway, that's a whole other thing to figure. So people could get tests rather than have to scurry around the county and spend 25, 30 bucks or 10 bucks, whatever,
Sure.
for a test kit if they feel, given the holidays and trying to help maintain going on, they could come and get a test kit. I know I have felt, and very much of an advantage, very honestly, to be able to come here into a meeting and get tested beforehand. It's been comforting, if you will, for that to happen. And I'm just wondering if it's under the provision of this act to help maintain a health within the community, to be able to provide, just like we bought bags, you know, so you could buy them at cost, if there would be a provision to do that. I don't mean it as being a wild out there thing, but we don't have a health department.
No, I appreciate it,
Would this
because
be a way to
it is one
provide
of the,
a reasonable service for everyone's best interest?
Are there self-test kits available?
You can buy them at Walmart. I think the issue gets in, are we going to certify the results and start providing paperwork for people to travel? And that kind of opens up a huge
Well, I wasn't
can of
asking about
worms.
that.
Yeah,
Same test
that's
we
what
had
would
here.
worry me.
so the
Well,
one,
beyond the request, though, that's all I asked.
But people are going to ask, you know.
so the one cautionary thing, or the one thing I would then task myself with researching, and Chief might be able to help me out with this. So one of the things I was explaining to Robert earlier, that one of the things when you just receive money like this, well, a town can only spend money on things it's authorized to spend money on. That's outside of the budget. It's just, here's what you are statutorily allowed to use money for.
That's why I was asking.
I would have to look into that, because county is public health. I'm not certain of the, Neil might be able to tell me right off the bat, but I'm just not certain if we would, as a town, be able to do that. But that's just because I'm not sure.
I'm only asking the same way that when I come into this building, I got tested today.
Right.
That's all.
Right.
Not certification to anybody. I think if you're going to travel, and those certification letters should be done outside.
I think people are going to misunderstand. I think there's a real
Okay,
possibility
I
of
just asked the
people
question, that's all.
misunderstanding. We're going to end up with,
No.
John, as the mayor pointed out, we'll end up with long lines. But I think we could end up with some real liability on that, because somebody's going to say, well, I got tested. Well, we know people do that. And they say, I got tested at Pineal Shores, which means you got to keep records and all the rest of it, and on and on and on. It's
I think,
it's a nice idea if it was simple, but it's not, because there's all kinds of liability.
Clark is slightly asking something slightly different, and that is, could we make the tests available for people to use at home at cost or something?
No,
like
not
that?
at,
No.
well, I was.
Or we would actually administer the test?
I don't want to belabor it.
Okay.
It's just
Mhm.
looking on the intent as you read it off
Mhm.
to try, and we're having a big discussion across our country, how to modify this. And money was thrown at it to do that. If it was possible for everyone's best interest in our collective best health to do something like that, that's all. I don't mean to belabor it.
I understand
That's
completely.
fine. Just move on.
No, I think to expand upon that, though, perhaps what we could consider, if it's permissible, is we provide the test kits. We don't do the testing in it. We just say, here are the test kits. You know, if you want them, we don't certify anything, but if you want to, take the test yourself, that's up to you, but we're not doing this test
Right.
That's
When
fine.
you have
So
by the cost. you mean.
I just worry about somebody
Alicia,
putting that thing up their nose by themselves.
Does anybody know how
I'm
much
not by
they
myself
cost at
now,
Walmart?
so.
They're
Anybody
not
have
that
an idea?
expensive, but to get them certified, I was just checking because I'm getting ready to travel. To get a certification quickly, it's like $100 and insurance doesn't cover it, but that's getting the official travel certification and stuff. But to me, I wouldn't give people those nasal swabs and think they could get a,
I would suggest I think Julie's got the idea of sort of what Clark's thoughts were.
Mhm.
And if she wants to come back at the next meeting and.
We
kind
should
of give
ask
us-
a question,
Yeah, I
that's all.
understand. Yeah.
Okay, any further comments or questions on the budget amendment? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve.
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Okay, we have the new item of sidewalks here. I'd like to ask Commissioner Gottsinger to introduce that, please.
Friday is the last day for the surveys, is our town clerk told us. And I know at this point, we've got 620 odd responses, which is excellent. But the interesting thing is this is the third time we've done basically the same survey. And going back and looking at them, the results have been almost identical, 52% in favor, 48% against. So there's a slim majority to go ahead and do it. We've been talking about this for as long as I can remember. In fact, this is the reason I ran to be a commissioner, because I got tired of hearing the same thing. It started when we wouldn't pursue the federal money when it came up. Now, I don't know if we need a motion, but what I'd like to do is instruct the town manager to get design proposals and investigate different financing options so that in January, we can move ahead with this one way or another. We've been put this thing to bed once and for all.
You're not talking about paying for a design proposal, but just to
right.
contact some people to see if
Exactly.
could do a design or any further.
Anybody have, do we need a motion on that? Just, do you need a motion, Brian?
No, I think we could just
Yeah.
say he could look into it.
Finances, how much, different ways to finance it. Certainly, we're going to spread it out over some years because the sidewalks aren't going to wear out real fast.
So
Not in our lifetime.
who could do the design and engineering work, and what are some options for?
Exactly.
Need?
Mayor,
Sounds good.
just a question. At some point, and I respect your characterization of what has come back, but will we have an actual brief to the commissioners to include comments, what people are saying, other than just the numbers? We don't have to go through 150 comments if that's what it is, but to get a flavor of when people say I'm for something, what were they really voting for, or what did their comments say? We'll get that kind of an out brief. Okay.
Okay, I think we've, that's enough. We've provided Brian with some guidance on a few next steps here.
I think it should be noted, though, it's clear we've not made a decision.
Oh, no.
There's been some time, unfortunately, sometimes there's assumptions made by the public.
No,
There's no decision
We're not
made.
asking for any decision.
Yeah.
So we're just getting suggestions, is that what we're getting?
Yeah. Okay, Julie. Thank you, Julie, and thank you, Brian. Thank you, Ted.
John, one quick thing. The key was in my mind that we have this for the January meeting.
Right. We'll be one step ahead or closer to whatever we're going to do. But then, Charlie, you're putting together the summary, kind of, right?
Yes, I am.
Right, excellent. Okay, next agenda item is the town manager and staff reports. And town manager, as usual, goes first. Brian.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Before I go into my comments, I want to also compliment Julie of all the incredible things I've seen her do in 14 years, putting together a cogent policy out of just a myriad, long list of incredible, confusing pieces of federal guidance. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. That policy you just passed will be passed around by the SOG to the rest of the state. And she put it together.
I think we'll give her an honorary PhD in economics.
All right. Yes, Dr. Julie.
So I hate bringing up this many things at the December meeting, but I didn't want to go 2 months without updating you on a few things in the public as well. So here you go. We met with, on the solid waste, we met with GFL and Waste Removal last week. It was a transition meeting, and to GFL's credit, they provided us everything we asked for. Mainly the list of all the property owners who are renting, who they have contracts with for carts and dumpsters. And that was really key, because otherwise the transition would have been really messy. But anyway, the last full week of the calendar year, 27 to 31 December, will be the actual week of swapping out carts and dumpsters. A couple exceptions on that date based on service times. You'll see a lot of dumpsters parked over to Lot C. I gave GFL the green light to make that kind of a staging area. Their pickup will be, their first pickup event will be on Monday, 3 January. So, and next week, Sonny, Charlie, and myself are going to be in a van with 5 or 6 waste removal folks, and we're going to take them to every dumpster location and ride the town. So we're looking solid for solid waste right now. So any questions on that first item?
You are frisky today.
Is that how you began the presentation? So you're going to be really good at the end?
You gotta do one for every topic.
What a crappy job.
On our next item is our largest capital expense on the water side, which is the water main project. Sonny and I met with Rendell Engineering to get a second PE proposal. The first one from Cullifer Engineering I thought was a little high. Cullifer has done all of our water system engineering to date, but we met with the Rendell. I'd like to sign with one of them this month, and I intend to. This is within our budget, of course. I do want to give the board a warning order, however, that John Wade from Rendell Engineering thought that material delivery delays might make Memorial Day tough. And that's kind of consistent with the material delays that Sonny is having with our own water system. So potentially we may this calendar year, strike that, this fiscal year through 1 July, get the design, permitting, bidding, contractor selection prior to Memorial Day, but then have a Paul's-X and do the construction early next fall, September, October. There is a mild benefit to that, which is we will then have the second half of our ARP funding in the bank.
Yep.
And assuming that we use this ARP funding for water system improvements, which is one of the authorized expenditures. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't want to drive up the construction price, telling him to get it done by Memorial Day. I don't think we lose anything waiting 4 months. So that's it on that water main project. Any questions on that?
I just have one question. Couldn't you also adjust, have the deadline date be, but then the penalty not exist for 3 months? So you at least have a date to begin by. You see what I'm saying? And if there aren't delays, it can get done and move on.
Possibly. I'm not sure I'd want him to start it and then stop for 3 months, but we could potentially have the contract and just have a 4-month delay on the notice to proceed date.
And then if you didn't have delays on supply, then you could do it. You put it off without the penalty. That's all. That's okay.
Yeah, we'll look at options on that.
I don't think you want to do it in the summertime with the traffic.
No.
Well,
No.
Definitely not.
That would be problematic. But, okay, moving on to the next item regarding the NCDOT drain lines. So I heard back from them earlier this week, and their position after I've relayed the board's guidance last month is if they assume permanent responsibility, then they will require permanent maintenance easements. And though I don't think this would be the case for the initial construction, the permanent maintenance easements would mean if they had to do construction, they potentially would have to remove vegetation, fences, so on and so forth. They also told me, oddly, and this is why I'm interested in talking to Bob Holman, who worked for state DOT for most of his career, that it's actually common DOT practice not to have permanent maintenance easements on lines that they put in.
Really?
That's exactly what they told me. But what I recommend going forward is I want to meet with Holman and also get some guidance from Neil. But if my view right now is if that's DOT's position, then we call their bluff and I approach the homeowners about permanent easements. I still believe this is probably a 40 or 50 year fix. So the likelihood in these areas that something would go wrong with these polyurethane pipes that they're going to put in the next 40 years, in my view, and Sonny's view for that matter, is less. Robert mentioned to me, and this is worth bringing up, what about the rest of the lines that DOT put in? And Clark and I are familiar with the rest of those. What I would see as a possible way forward to have the rest of those lines that DOT put in is that we request that DOT do a camera examination of them and not us. You know, those camera shots that I showed you last month, we paid for that. We paid $2,000 or $3,000 and Sonny went out there, but, and I'll gladly do that. I don't know what the response to that request would be, but to answer your question, Robert, in the note, yes, lines do go through private areas in some spots, right behind. This particular line on Marvavite goes behind private property of Hemlock and Maritime Woods.
But they have an easement there, though.
They do. That doesn't mean that the line is in good shape, but.
I got a question. And I'm going to use your term. Is the juice really worth the squeeze? It seems like we've been spinning wheels on this for how long now? And it
Almost
really,
2 years.
yeah, and it needs to get done. I mean, I know and this might be a Neil question too. I know we're butting heads with DOT, but at some point we just got to say, we need to get it done.
I agree.
50, I mean, and how much money are we spending in your time and sweat when?
I agree, but at this point, my thoughts are, I told them our position. I wouldn't retract our position. I think I need to have a face-to-face with the neighbors and say, we can get this done with a permanent easement. Yes, they will have permanent maintenance access, if you will, but the likelihood of that is so remote, so.
And we're in the middle of a poker game.
You don't want to fold yet there, John, huh?
If I could, and not to put you on the spot, Brian, but do we know how pervasive it is? Do we think this is going to affect 15 homeowners, or is it going to affect 150? And whatever decision we make, that's going to set a precedent for the remainder of those properties that are affected.
You're not putting me on the spot. Based on locations that I know, you're probably talking another 2 or 3 homeowners.
Okay, so it's
because largely the lines come from the highway and go to the sound, but you know where the locations are. There's another 2 property owners on the east end of Arborvitae.
Okay.
But to the point of.
It's probably 4 or 5 that actually the easements you'd have to get. Right. I don't know what it is on Cedar. I think there's 2, maybe 4. I think there's only 2. And on Arborvitae, there are 2.
Okay. But I kind of like to separate in time and space the effort to get these easements and get these fixes done, and then our effort to get the rest of the lines cambered, inspected, and
Yes.
easements established, you know?
Yeah.
I don't want to throw that on the table as another demand now, so.
No.
Brian, as part of your discussion with NCDOT, did you bring up the issue about the indemnification hold harmless that we talked about? You did not want in the agreement.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was central to this, that, you know, I told them very clearly when we want them to assume responsibility, not us. And we want permanent responsibility of DOT, and that's what a permanent maintenance easement would do.
I wonder though, if there's something in between, you know, if they don't get permanent though, we could still ask them to remove the indemnification language in this current agreement, where they're asking us to pay half the cost.
We shouldn't be liable for paying half the cost for they doing the work.
And we take over any responsibility. We just take that part out of the contract.
Take which part out?
Of the indemnification and hold harmless, because as I recall, the agreement said that if they paid half and we paid half, we're responsible and we have to hold them harmless.
Well, that would go away. I mean, no, I
Go away if we had permanent easement, but can it also go away without the permanent easement? Just having the work done.
That is a big issue.
well, they're demanding a permanent easement.
That's their counter to your
Right.
proposal.
They're demanding a permanent easement in response to me saying, no, DOT, we won't let you be held harmless. We want you to assume permanent maintenance responsibility.
That's not their practice.
No, and the problem is going to be the homeowners don't want to clear cut that space.
Well, again, I don't believe they're going to need to clear cut it for the sleeve, you know, a pipe inside of a pipe. But, you know, again, as I mentioned to a few of you, I think DOT is saying that right now because they've been out there with Sonny and I with the neighbors, and they know that the neighbors don't want the yards torn up.
But they don't want the house falling in either, so. Right.
So I'm going to talk to Neil, I'm going to talk to Holman, then I anticipate going to Russ Pagel and Mr. Bennett on arborvitae and to the Goulds and the Greek name, I can't recall, on cedar. And cedar, by the way, that was a question from last time. Cedar is the same situation. There's not a permanent easement on there.
Brian, in your discussions with Neil, and this may be a minor point, is there any implication as it relates to the disclosures for the property, that easement going through that property in the future? Or is there anything that would need to be adjusted as it relates to the titling, if you will, of that property?
I'm going to have to check with Neil on that.
Because I think that's something that if those folks at some point decide to sell, now they have a permanent easement on their property. I would think that would need to be a disclosure in the sale.
It would be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
Which is not at the moment.
yeah, the permanent easement on for our stormwater project are now on the tax map. I assume they would be disclosed, but I have to check with Neil.
Mayor, I can answer that real quickly if you can hear me.
Sure.
Yeah.
And an easement would be a written document that was signed and recorded at the Register of Deeds office, and it would be in the chain of title of the current owners, so that everyone who bought subsequently would have notice of the terms of the easement. Now, as we've been talking about for several meetings now, the actual pipe is in an easement that is on the subdivision map. And so there's already an easement there. We're just sort of trying to figure out what rights and obligations DOT and the Pineal Shores have with respect to the pipe that is there and the maintenance of it. But yes, the owners are on notice and will be on notice if we can get this worked out, future owners.
Actually, another one.
Okay, anything else? Okay.
Okay, I want to talk about the the mystery tank on the beach, and I'm referring to the cement tank in the dunes in between Seahawk and Windjammer. Spoke to both owners and both deny that it's theirs, and it's obviously one of theirs. And it's, I've talked to the health department who verified via their plans, interestingly, that all their septic water and laundry water, black and gray water, go to the north side of the properties, which is interesting. And if you drive out in the parking lot, you see all the septic system business out front. Nonetheless, the Seahawk went out and they capped, I know Clark has seen it, they capped a 2-inch PVC pipe that comes out of the tank toward the beach. Sonny believes that's not doing anything. That's just a vent. And so I asked both owners and they've agreed. And I want Sonny to do this because I want Sonny's eyes on it. We're going to go out there next week or maybe the week thereafter, but very soon. And on the south side, the north side of the tank, the road side, we're going to dig down and find the pipe that goes into that tank. Cut that, we're going to cap it. Mm-hmm. And we've told both of them we're going to cap it. And they both are agreeable and allowable to that.
You think it's just an abandoned tank?
Well,
we don't know.
Still stuff coming out of it.
I've got some photos that Sonny's friend, who's the maintenance guy at the Seahawk, took this summer of soapy, sudsy.
That's a good clue.
Soapy, sudsy water. And Sonny said from the beginning, he thinks it's a laundry concern. So, but anyway, I didn't want anyone to think we were just going to ignore that. But it's not as simple as.
There are no other buildings within 250
But we're
feet.
digging on their property.
Yes, and I have authorization to do that.
We know there's a pipe going in from the north side.
Yeah, there's no question into that. And Robert, it's not an extensive, it won't even be a backhoe. It'll be digging maybe a 4x4 square down, just finding the inlet pipe. So it's not substantial. And Sonny will do, locating or whatever.
Okay.
He's probed and he knows exactly where the tank is. So he knows where the end of the tank is.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to dig down there.
Okay.
So,
Brian, I suggest we get that consent in writing,
That was my point. Yeah.
not just verbal consent,
okay.
since it's private property.
Okay, anything else?
Not on that.
Okay.
I want to talk about the PSD equipment barn and the dog park. The field work, many of you have gone back there on the field work on the survey is nearly complete. I talked to Clark only because I was thinking Clark was around back, was on the board back when we met with the met with the dog park group. I'd like to talk to the original 2011 dog park people, and that's when it was set up. Remember Alan Smith and that group set that up about our plans. I think that's the right thing to do. So the idea came, I've been thinking about what we can do about where we put the dog park or if we replace the dog park. And I've been asked a lot of questions about usage. It is not heavily used in cold weather. I don't know if I've seen anyone back there in a month. When I leave at 5 p.m.-ish on warm weather, there's 4 or 5 cars back there.
Okay.
So I can't claim it's heavily used, but it's regularly used by some amount. So the idea is if we put Sonny's equipment barn on the present dog park area, what do we do about dog parks? There were two options that came to mind over the week. One is Hester Woods. And the idea would be on the south end of Hester Woods. Perhaps I would choose that just because it's drier. That we put a dog park in there. And an option that Julie actually mentioned today, and she's full of good ideas this week, so it's worth mentioning, is
Not a vacation, so
nothing that says the dog park needs to be rectangular. There's nothing that says that, that says anything about restoration of dog park. Possibly at the trailhead right over here to Curry Park, which is a nice option too. It'd be a weird shaped dog park, but I see what people do in there. They're not,
And their dogs run.
they're letting their dogs run around. That's what I'm saying. There's not a dog obstacle course in there that you need a certain amount of space or anything like that. It's not a dog training facility is what I'm trying to say. So I would like to say the Hester Woods option went over like a you-know-what in church with Pikesco when I brought it up to them yesterday. I wanted them to know that I was going to brief this tonight. So we'll see. But I think we have some time on this because of, I'm going to brief in a minute on the FEMA excess funds. I don't think we're going to be building that probably until this spring, quite frankly. But wanted to give you a heads up on that. So.
Can I say something? Mayor?
Yes.
I'm not sure we really need a dog park, Brian. Now, I've got 2 dogs and I'll take them over there very occasionally in the summertime. And we're talking about a small amount of people using it. I don't know that we have to, just an opinion that we might just say, we don't have a dog park anymore.
Right. And we can do that in the agreement. It's on town property, of course. I just wanted to reach out to them because a group of citizens funded.
Like Tom Tempo, I think donated $10,000 for the chain link fence or something, didn't he?
I can't remember the dollar amounts, but citizens donated funds for that. I'd like to engage with them.
For the, for that building, did y'all solve the elevation issue?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I
You
mean,
don't have to go into-
we solved it by putting it there.
Okay. I just want to make sure that was why. Okay.
With the equipment barn in Hester Woods. See what.
Right.
How about that, Pike?
Really?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Anything else? Anything else in the yard equipment barn? Want to just briefly tell you about the federal infrastructure funding. I'm talking the 1.2 trillion that President Biden signed on 15 November. Approached the league, the same people that Joy got the guidance from on the ARP, those same people about the plan of distribution of these funds in North Carolina. And the short answer is they're not certain yet, but it sounds like the distribution will not be like the ARP. The ARP was a direct grant award, unsolicited, to every municipal government in the state. Doesn't appear to be the case here. What's likely going to happen in North Carolina is they're going to park that funding in the Clean Water State Revolving Fund and the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. Clean Water State Revolving Fund, think stormwater type things we could do with that, drainage type issues, water quality issues. Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, think our water system. And then there would be a competitive bidding process to get some of that. That's the framework that the league and the school government's telling us now. Big concern there for us is that we're tier 3. And for anyone who's not familiar with it, the tiers were the least economically distressed category. Doesn't mean we wouldn't receive any money. It would likely mean that we'd have a larger local share than a tier 1 area. So I want to make everyone aware of that. I'm confident we'll be able to get money for our water system capital projects in the future, but it's likely not going to be as we saw with ARP. That's all I have on that one. So, Bill.
Right, going back to the dog park area, one thing came to mind. We had talked about the fact that our subject drain field is located there. Do we know anything further, whether we'll have to relocate that or put a new one in?
We would unquestionably have to relocate it. That would be part of it. So, and that was not part of the original, excess FEMA funds request. So we'd have to do that on our own nickel.
And is there sufficient space there to do it?
Sonny thinks so. Sonny thinks so. There's nothing that says drain lines need to be straight. Contractors do that out of convenience, but yeah, that first concern we had with putting it there, so. The tank and the D box are in good shape, to the best of our knowledge. We had it serviced just a few years ago, but the drain lines themselves would have to be relocated or replaced, so.
Can I just add, those may not be in great shape anyway, because years ago, we planted fire trucks out there and all other kinds of storage, so. And if you look at the amount of bathrooms, it's not too many goes into it, so it was probably overbuilt based on square footage anyway. And therefore, you really don't know the lines, what conditions they're in, and they're 50 years old.
Well, we had a backup 3 years ago, remember?
No, I understand that, but I mean, this building could get away with much less number of drain lines than it would have required based on square footage. It's just happening, no doubt about that.
On the FEMA excess funds, not good news here. The 30-day public notice expires tomorrow. And again, the public notice was just on that one building. You know, as you'll recall, 2 years ago, we were saying the guidance that we received from FEMA was, don't piecemeal this thing, buy big, one or two big dollar things. Well, that's not what we needed. That's not what we think we needed for the resilience. But what is holding this up is this one item, that equipment building, is the one that involves ground disturbance. And then that triggers a whole bunch of environmental review. But anyway, interestingly, I was advised this week that at the end of the 30-day notice, FEMA has to forward consultation letters, as they call it, to both the state historic preservation and the tribal historic preservation office, which is just a bureaucratic step. And then there's a series of reviews. I was just showing the email at different offices at FEMA, but I don't believe we're going to see those funds any sooner than the March-April timeframe, which means that we'll be executing this $3.2 million likely at the very same time we're planning to execute our annual budget. So it'll be strap-on time for Julie, but she doesn't do much, so it won't be. So. But just make you aware, about three more months on that.
This is a broken record, but we need a person who's going to be responsible for a lot of what's going on when that money hits here. Mm-hmm. Every town is going to have the same problem with the whole bidding process, the supervision process. I know you did the East Side Water Project, but you can't do that again, Brian. We need to find that person, and we need to find him soon, so he's on duty or on board come March 1st, because everybody's gonna be looking for the same guy.
Ted, I totally support the idea of looking not so much for a full-time slot, but for a consultant role for a time period, because this is an adjunct need based, as far as we know, for now, for maybe 8 months or so, right? Whatever the ended. I say right, I don't mean to put you on the spot, anybody on the spot, but for a time period. And I do think you need to find a way. I support the intent of his comment to find adjunct help, if you will. Maybe that's a good way to put it, adjunct help, and figure in what the percentage of that is, whatever, from a consultant's role to do that, because you can't be expected to put that much out in that short period of time and be able to do your work appropriately. Mm-hmm. So I totally support that.
I think you had a list of the things that person could do, and I can't remember if it was at the strategic planning meeting or the planning board meeting. And there might be another option. You know, we're contracting out for some of the stuff through FEMA. I don't know if that's an option. But certainly it's not, this whole thing is not something we can handle in-house the way it is right now. You guys are all stretched pretty thin with that.
Could we have
request of proposals?
Could we have the commissioners, would it be the administration committee or the personnel committee? Probably administration committee. I don't have them meet and sort of hammer out a path forward on the.
Yeah, I have some outlines on that. I was planning on pitching that at the offsite Maybe we,
Get this money in March or April. Somebody's gonna gobble up. Carteret County doesn't have a wealth of candidates that we're looking for in this area. At least I don't think they do.
Might be some Pineal Shores retirees.
Right. So we're referring to the FEMA excess funds. That was the project.
Right, or the whole thing, depending.
And the what?
ARP.
And the
Yeah,
ARP
yeah.
money. So, right, so the other half of ARP money we probably won't see till at least July.
Right.
It won't be before the year from the first one. For the FEMA excess funds, that's a reimbursement like all the other ones. So we won't get the $3.2 million and then go do your projects. It will be, okay,
No.
we've obligated this money
Right.
and you're good to do these projects now. Start the bidding process, start the, whatever you need to do. And then it's a reimbursement along the way of the project. So
I see it as, I see the challenge as a combination of, if we don't have someone full-time obligated, I don't mean necessarily full-time employee, but perhaps full-time obligated for project management, for roof buildings, for water main replacements, for stormwater projects. And at the same time, a lot of this $1.2 trillion is going to be grant driven.
Right.
Yes.
And so all that comes into that need.
I'm just saying, every town is gonna be looking for the same person that we're looking for, so we ought to be first, I think, if we can.
Put out a request for proposal under a project management type of situation.
I thought your list, I can't remember, I wish I had a copy of it with me, was pretty all-inclusive on what you'd have this person do.
Mayor, just a question. Do these funds support the acquisition of that individual?
So I would have to look for that's why I was asking for talking FEMA excess funds, like what exactly we were referring to. I would believe that if we went through the proper RFP process following uniform guidance, that if this job or this contractor's work or whoever is directly related to these projects, that would be FEMA reimbursable under the 3.2 million.
Right.
Because their job is directly related to these projects.
Quite often it's 10% or so allotted to it roughly.
If
Or
we
so,
wait,
maybe
if we
more.
wait till March, we're gonna be,
I
the candidates are gone.
I agree totally with Ted also and Clark that we should be looking now, not waiting until we getting the money.
Okay, do we need to take any more specific action tonight, or?
Do you want the admin committee to meet or?
No, I've got that note. I'll set I think what I'll do is I'll outline a scope of work for this individual, meet with the admin committee, and I could find RFPs. We can put out an RFP.
I'm not on the admin committee, but I'd love to sit in on that.
Yeah.
Let's have a
Brian, I
product.
would probably ask, being a shadow, whoever, would ask of Jeff if what I'm thinking would qualify for, because then.
Excellent.
Whether it does or doesn't, we probably still need someone.
But it changes how you do that.
Yes.
funding. Because we could be real loosey-goosey with an RFP if it's our money.
Yeah.
If it's federal money we're using, I gotta be really
Yeah.
tight.
But you have a gist of what's people are trying to offer support for you.
I think we all agree that it's necessary to have that person. How we skin that cat and pay for it is a whole different word, maybe. But I think there's a majority of people here that agree with it. And if we talk farther, I think maybe everybody would even agree with it.
Okay,
We don't want to see you die in office, Brian, from overwork.
I got Julie.
You got Julie, I
Or me
forgot.
kill him.
That might be more like.
Yes, as my comment, just coming into this, I'd like to know a lot more about it before we go down that path. I understand that.
Sure.
I'd like to know where the money comes from. How is it going to be funded? Is everything that we're talking about here a certainty? And my only caution, and I understand, Ted, and I respect your position, and what others have said, temporary positions or people that we bring on for a certain period of time often become permanent positions.
True.
So we just need to be careful about how we go. I'm not saying I'm against it.
I understand.
I just need to know more about it.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and I think we have to think in terms of possibly having another permanent position or two as we go forward and everything just gets more and more complicated with federal funds and grants and record keeping and requirements that are put onto us from outside. And when you look at the issues this little town is going to be facing, you know, with redevelopment and larger population and everything else, I think yeah, it's going to be difficult to stay small.
I think we're past that point already, John. We're squeezing that dollar pretty well now.
I see that as a separate issue, what we're talking about
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
You know, I would not be in favor of hiring somebody as an employee to do this job we're talking about. I'm looking for an outside independent contractor of some sort, so you don't incur all the other expenses, you know, as an employee.
That's what I'm looking at too.
Okay.
All right, that's good guidance for me, so appreciate you guys bringing that up, actually. One last thing, and this is kind of just a warning order. So the state approved its budget. There's a couple significant funding amounts in areas that are of interest to us. I want to make the board aware of. There's $100 million going to Division of Water Resources for stormwater. There's $20 million going to the North Carolina Land and Water Fund, which is formerly the Clean Water Trust Fund, who we received the phase 2 grant from. And there's $2 million that's directly earmarked to the Coastal Federation for the living shorelines. And Charlie, if you go to my next slide, I just want to talk about 2 of them real quick because I'd like to present something next month to you. The Land and Water Fund has that $20 million, and this is an echo of previous comments. A good target for this for us, and I'm actually started some work already with the Coastal Federation, is the phase 3 stormwater project. And for Robert's benefit and everyone else, and I'll brief you in detail later on, that involves drainage issues on Laurel and Myrtle Courts. And the extension of that line from Hester Woods, essentially, to Holly. That's a competitive grant process, and the applications are due on 1 February. Awards would be announced in September. So this would be an FY23 project for us. Funding would be provided upon signing the contract with a contractor. So we actually have in this year's budget some funding for design of, at the time, we were talking Laurel and Myrtle. We since added this line. But in my view, if we can get the design, get the design done ahead of time and then bid construction upon the award. The Coastal Federation is very confident that this project would get the grant. Now, you can't promise that. It's a grant, it's competitive, but that $20 million is twice as much as they've seen in the past. I don't have a construction estimate yet because no design work's been done, but the cost share would be 80-20-20, or excuse me, 80-20. Just want to make the board aware of that one. So bottom line, January, my SOP has been to request board authorization to submit grant applications. I'm going to request in January authorization to apply for that. Next is the Living Shoreline, $2 million. This was provided to the Coastal Federation for statewide applications. And they've told me directly that they do not want to spend all this money in one area, but they really, really like our projects. So they think we'd be competitive. And different than last time, and this is following, I think, the majority of the board's sentiment, we wouldn't be involved financially. It would be an agreement between the private property owners who would apply to the Coastal Federation if they wanted to do this. And they're envisioning a 50-50 cost share with a private property owner, and your standard 100-foot parcel would cost a private property owner about $5,000 at today's costs. So our role in this would be as a facilitator. I envision us having meetings here in town, allowing them to use our areas for staging, as we did for the project at Veterans Park, and maybe some minor equipment issues, meaning Sonny helping them out with the four-wheeler to move bags or plants or whatever, some of the things. So
would we assist the property owners in their application to the NCCF?
well,
Yeah, that's another one.
sure. I mean, what I would envision if we move forward on this, and there's no specific deadline of 1 February on this, but I'm talking to Dr. Lexia Weaver again. What I envision is it's an online application, but what I envision is we set up a meeting here for interested citizens and on that, and then we go forward from there. I didn't really answer your question. I don't know if we would help them fill out applications. I suppose we should, but this is the Coastal Federation, not the state. It won't be an 80-page application. It require, a lot of surveying work or anything like that.
Tier 3 doesn't matter.
And Tier 3 doesn't matter. Mayor, the last thing I have, well, I didn't ask for any questions on that.
I just have one question on the Laurel Cliff at Myrtle. I noticed there's still a big pit there at Myrtle. That's not going to go on for 3 years until that project's approved, is it?
It'll be fixed next week.
Yeah,
Sunday.
good. Thank you. Thank you.
Next week.
Sunny.
We talked about that today.
Good. Thank you.
Last thing, it's not on my slide. I've been going longer than I planned, but John and I probably need to talk about COVID steps in January. So plan on what we decide to do in January. If the board wants to talk about that, we can, but
Put it on the agenda probably. Yeah.
Good idea.
All right.
our meeting in January is early, I think.
The 12th.
12th, yeah,
12th.
reasonably early. So we'd have it before those series of important meetings. So,
Yeah, there will probably still be in the statistical bump after Christmas. You know, they're finding out now that, you know, whenever you have a holiday,
Retreat.
testing falls way off. But then after the holiday, testing, the number of tests conducted goes way up. And then the caseload, of course, goes up with the number of tests. And, you know, it's hard to determine whether it's a, you know, an actual increase in the transmission rate and, or just a statistical bump in the road. But, so it will be early, but I think we'll still have an opportunity to take a look at all the data. And I mean, if we decide we need more data, we'll just keep going the way we are for another month, keep things closed. But it's too early to tell right now.
so I have.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Okay, next, Julie, again, Finance and Administration, please.
Okay, so just a couple items. First one really quick. Expect a budget amendment at next month's meeting for a few things that have already been approved by the board, but the new Shoreline contract changes, the equipment building site plan, which I might not have all of that financial information, but the survey amount I might have by then. Sidewalk survey printing that we already did, and the UDO consultant contract. I just need to do a budget amendment to tie all that stuff up. So that should be coming next month. And then the bigger part of what I have to report to you today is the Water Enterprise Fund. I'm calling it a financial study, but the Finance Committee met yesterday, and there are several key performance indicators that the School of Government in collaboration with the Local Government Commission put out for us to compare ourselves to like systems when it comes to rates or key performance indicators. So what I did in preparation for that meeting was went back 5 years on those key performance indicators to show us where we stand, not on all of them because there's a laundry list of them, but some key ones. And then further into that, I went back, I think to like 2015 on actuals, 2015 to 2021, and then looked out the next 5 years according to our capital improvement plan and kind of projected out the next 5 years. Because as you might recall, back when we had our budget meetings earlier this calendar year, we were saying we're going to have to likely look at our water rates because we have large capital expenditures coming up after doing our asset management study and getting a much richer capital improvement plan. So the plan is that at the February offsite, I will present that information to you with those indicators, kind of historical financials, see where we're at. I'm also going to request of Carteret Craven, and I missed a word in that last bullet, but I will request of Carteret Craven some customized reports on usage. Because in prior to 2010, we had a flat rate, flat usage rate, and then we switched to tiered usage rates in 2010. And if we are going to look at changing base rate or usage rates, I kind of want to see where the meat of our water usage is amongst those tiers. And it's helpful information to have to see what the nature of our town is. And then one thing I think we also need to think about, and it was, Sunny might be able to remind me, but some of our homes that have irrigation systems have a separate meter for that. And I think that was a legislation change some years ago, but if you put in a new one. So there are homes that have irrigation that are all on the same meter. And we might want to just consider how we go about moving forward with that, if we can make some internal legislation changes or local legislation changes to require locally having two. I think just from a data collection standpoint or an understanding of the system, it would be helpful to know where all of those irrigation systems are and what their usage is. Certainly when we get into we haven't had it for a while, but some years ago, we had that we were under a severe drought and had some water restrictions. When you don't know what's being used in a irrigation system, you can't really restrict anything.
Well, then, yeah, the other things, like if you have an irrigation system that's on a timer, you're a second homeowner, your sprinklers come on whether it's raining out or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
A lot of them will have a little thing here that cuts it off when it's
raining, or
Yeah.
a sensor.
Yeah, some have a sensor. Yeah, ground sensor, right? Larry, you were saying that
real
yesterday.
simple.
Yeah. And then, and just as a reminder that when we made that tiered rate structure back in 2010, we purposely made it so that the standard under 5,000 gallons a month, or was it every 2 months then? Something like that. Anyways, the base level of usage, that usage rate per 1,000 gallons did not change. So we have not, on that base level, we have not had a rate change in the entire time that Brian and I have been here. So when you're paying the same per 1,000 gallons over 14 years, that's a long time.
Yeah.
So it's just something that we need to look at. And so that the whole looking at the key performance indicators, historical financials, we'll talk about that in February and then kind of move forward in that process, I believe. Am I right, Brian? Before budget time, right? So that's just what I wanted to give you the heads up on.
That?
No.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Next is Jason Bates, Fire EMS. Jason, are you there?
Yes, sir. Can y'all hear me?
We can.
Yeah, for some reason, Charlie's got my screen a little messed up. I got a little small slide thing there. But anyway, there he goes. Appreciate it, Charlie. Fire department Christmas party. We're going to get the crew together December 16th. I think everybody's got the invites out. Please show up. We're going to try to keep it as COVID safe. I should put COVID friendly on there. It should not be COVID friendly. We don't want to be friendly with it. We want to be safe with it. But we're really working on that. But 6 o'clock, going to have some food. Come check it, and hope to see all you guys there. Going to be a good time as always. One thing I'm really excited about, Santa by the Sea, which is December 11th, is 8 to 5 at the aquarium. You got to see, like I said on there, you got to see what Jerry, firefighter medic Jerry Bowden has put together. He's really going above and beyond. It's going to be super awesome, and I hope you guys can at least stop by and check it out, what he's put together. And lastly, Christmas fire safety, and don't burn your house down. That's the main rule. Be careful of cheap extension cords. People buy those things. We call them 99-cent fire starters. Make sure your extension cords are UL certified. Wash the candles. Please don't put candles under Christmas trees or anywhere near a Christmas tree. Don't put candles where a youngin might knock them over accidentally. Just, candles burn a lot of houses down this time of year. And smoke detectors, go through your house and check them. Christmas time, a good time. A lot of fires happen during Christmas time. It's just a good time to go through and check all your smoke detectors, especially going to be having family over, whatnot. You're probably going to try to stow your family to a remote part of the house away from everything. Just check your smoke detector. Make sure they're all operational and working. Like I say, if you ever seen a Christmas tree go up in flames, they can literally make a entire room combust from up to 8 foot away. They can make couches and stuff just spontaneously combust. They're nothing to play with.
Okay.
If you use real ones.
30 questions for Jason Clark, and then Commissioner Connect.
I have a question, Jason.
Sir.
I realize it rained a lot today and so forth, but up till now, what with the problem of lack of rain and dry, what's the policy on fire pits and all these ones you can just go to the store and buy and put out in your yard? Can people burn during
it's
drought?
still if it's burning wood, it's still considered open burning, and you need a burn permit for it. Those fire pits are a walking disaster. They're all over town, I know. Most time we don't know somebody's burning in one until their neighbors call and complain about the smoke, and we have to go put it out. But people don't realize you still got to get a burn permit for those burn pits. And right now, statewide burn ban is in effect. Maybe this rain today will help that, but there is the burn ban's in effect right now.
So the burn ban applies to fire pits?
Yes, sir.
What about
It's open burn.
propane fire pits?
No, the propane, see, that's a touchy one. The propane doesn't produce smoke, and most people don't even know that they're in operation. The code's funny on the propane stuff, but propane is kind of considered okay. But if you're burning wood and firewood and things like that, then that's open burning.
I just
had somebody call in question about the propane or they're wanting to build a burn pit, like a whatever you call it, a stone, like an in-place burn pit, not one like you go buy. I mean, one they're going to spend a couple $1,000s on. And the guy was questioning, called, thank God, most people don't, before he did it. And I'm like, well, they can do it, but they got to get a burn permit to do it. I said propane might be a better way to go, a little safer that way, and not so subject, but yeah, most people don't call. They just got those burn pits out there and run them a lot.
I just think some advice needs to go out about that for.
Yeah, you see them out there all the time. most time we don't know about it till the neighbor calls and complains about a smoke issue or something like that, and we haven't put it out. But, most times they're hard to catch. We don't go around, riding around looking for them, but out there. A lot of cities and towns are had to go back, but just one quick note. A lot of cities and towns have had to go back and rewrite their burn permit ordinances to allow or some towns, I guess, have totally cut out burning at all, but a lot of towns had to go back and write those into their ordinances so people could use them without permits.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Connect.
Jason, my question is really more of a reporting. About a year ago, I had asked the police department, and Ryan graciously agreed to provide a report that shows us each month and the year to date compared to the previous year. What you're giving us is end of month for December. Well, to date, at this point in time, 2021, and then 2020, and then 2019, just comparing the months. I'm wondering if you could perhaps consider doing your report like Chase or like Ryan does it. And we'd have only one sheet of paper, and we would show each month what the numbers are with respect to incident types, and then have a year to date, and then the previous year to date. It might be more beneficial we had the information in that format.
Yeah, that's no biggie. That's no biggie. I've always just done them, comparing month to month, one year to the next, or current year to previous. Yeah, that's no biggie. Easy fix.
That's my own personal preference. I'd rather see each month for the year than a year to date compared to just year to date last year.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but what I just do is how many calls we run this month. Well, in fact, that's not December, that's November you're looking at, but unless I put December on there, it should be a November one. But yes, just the calls run that specific month, comparing it with a month prior. But yeah, we can change it. That's no biggie. If everybody wants it changed that way, that's easy.
Be fine.
I don't know how the rest feel about it, but
That's all right. Yeah, it's fine, man.
Play around with it, Jason, and see what you come up with.
Yes, sir. We can do it. That's no
Okay.
problem.
All right, thank you, Jason. Anybody else?
Just a comment, and I apologize if I missed something. Jason, are you planning on, maybe a recommendation would be, it's great information that you have here on the slide, and we recognize very few people tune into these, but is it worth sending something out like a public email about safety at Christmas, kind of capturing what you have here? And I don't know if Chief Thompson may want to do the same thing, but as we get into this season, I think it's great for us to know it, but we really want the citizens to know it. So just something to think about, if it's worth sending out here's some reminders about going into the Christmas season that you might want to check.
Yeah, I get real quick on that one. I get again,
Email.
email definitely. And Mr. Kramer's got the huge all over the world group list, I think. And he can really bang them out there to everybody a lot better than me with that email stuff. But if you guys will do is point citizens towards our Facebook page on the fire department's Facebook page, because I got Jerry just gearing that up and putting a lot of stuff on there as well. We can definitely do an email, and I would do that through Kramer in his group listserv, whatever you call that. And but if y'all talk to folks out in the street, direct them towards that the fire department's Facebook page, because we put little snippets on there too that I think do good for everybody. Hurricane stuff, fire stuff, all that stuff.
Okay. All right, thank you, Jason.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? All right. Next up is Ryan Thompson, Police Department. Ryan, are you there? Okay, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Real quick, most of you guys know that we arrested a fugitive that we were looking for and extradited him back to Carteret County. Really want to commend our officers for doing that. That was a lot of work to investigate, get assistance from the State Bureau of Investigation to help track him down, and then work with the authorities in Georgia to keep him in custody until we could go through the extradition process to go down there and pick him up and bring him back. And just a couple real quick notes. He's alleged to have scammed just in Pineal Shores 4 different residents out of a little over $10,000 through a yard work scam. And so we take that stuff very personal, especially when it happens to our elderly, which unfortunately in these cases, that's who it happened to. So really did a lot of solid work by our officers, in particular Corey Bishop, for investigating and working with the authorities in Georgia to safely bring him back to our county. So really outstanding work on their part for that. And keeping along the same lines of investigations, just a quick summary of 2021. We had 40 major cases that required a large amount of investigation and follow-up by all of our officers. So these are not all of the cases, but these are the ones that I thought stuck out the most. We had 6 death cases. We had 5 breaking and entering cases, 8 fraud cases, 7 missing, suicide, or mental health emergencies. We certainly responded to more than 7 mental health emergencies, but again, these are just the ones that required a large amount of investigation or follow-up. 1 cyber stalking case, and then we had 24 child exploitation cases that we participated in investigating. And just a reminder for everyone on the board that our department is a member of a Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, and we have an officer that's on sworn through Homeland Security to investigate particular child exploitation cases. And probably the best part about this slide is working with our court system, we were able to recover almost $17,000 in funds for victims of crime in this past year. So very satisfied with that.
Okay, any questions for Ryan? Any comments?
Just good work.
Yeah,
Thank you.
very good work, Ryan. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is the Public Services Department and the Water Department. Sonny Cunningham, are you there, Sonny?
I am. How's everybody doing tonight? Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. We had one water leak last month. It was a 6-inch main down back. It's called Pelican Drive up down in Atlantic Beach. It was where the pipe was put together years ago and split the bell. So we repaired it in-house. Everything was good. The other thing is we're replacing some signs for you guys. We finally got them in. The problem is the prison is that's who made the signs for us this time. We saved a bunch of money, and which is really, really good. The signs are good quality, high reflectivity. So we're going to have something nice to see. We're going to keep doing it until we get the whole town completed. If you guys see anything we missed, please let us know. Because there's quite a few signs out there. And the other thing, like Mr. Kramer told you before, Wednesday we'll be working on the mobile court lift station and enhancement. So it'll be able to move some water when we need to, when we have some, 4, 5, 6 inches of rain in 2 hours. Do you guys have any questions?
Any questions?
I just have one comment about replacing the signs. As being part of the crew from the garden club that helped put up the Christmas tree, well, not the swags, along the Route 58. I apologize for being part of the crew that put them up about a half an hour before you.
Yes. Let's see. We only got them like 2 days ago. They come in, and I was like, man, this is good news. And then,
I wasn't part of that crew, but no one did it intentionally, just to give you more work.
I think the reefs look a lot better now, so everything worked out for the best.
It's making it harder for you, Sonny. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm just glad to get them in. I mean, it took 4 or 5 months to get these things in. So now we're moving along, and everyone can see where they're driving to and back and from. That's a tremendous deal, especially when it's raining or at night. So we'll keep doing it. We'll keep getting it done. And if you guys see anything we need to jump on, let us know. We'll be glad to listen to you guys.
Any questions for Sonny? Okay, well, thank you, Sonny.
Welcome. Thank you, guys.
All right. Next up is our town planner, Kevin Reed. Are you there, Kevin?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Good evening, everyone. To start off, just a report on single-family landscape permits. Staff issued one for the month of November, and the Community Appearance Commission conducted a special meeting today and issued two more single-family landscape permits. While this slide indicates we have 6 under review, we do, but we had 2 more added this afternoon. So again, single-family construction remains robust in Pineal Shores. In regards to the Carteret County CTP, some of you may have seen an article in the newspaper recently. I attended the Carteret County Transportation Committee meeting last month, and as part of updating the committee and those in attendance on the CTP process, Ncdot reported that they had completed the travel demand model. The next step is to begin work on the plan itself in earnest, and that will happen next year. It's anticipated that the Carteret County Transportation Committee will appoint a 6 to 8 person steering committee that will sort of guide the CTP process. Under the current CTP, all municipalities had a seat at the table, essentially, and were part of a steering committee. That number is going to be pared down this time, so all municipalities will not be represented, but they do anticipate a 6 to 8 steering committee that they'll likely appoint in January, February of next year to begin work in earnest on the CTP. Any questions so far?
Not on that.
That's been in the newspaper too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. With regard to short-term rentals, you all recall back in July, you deferred some action to the planning board on short-term rentals. Of course, they have conducted a survey. That survey results were reported back to you and to the planning board. Following the reporting back to the planning board of the survey results, myself and Mr. Kramer sat through a presentation by a company on November 15th called Granicus. They have a company under Granicus called Host Compliance that provides a whole host of short-term rental compliance and monitoring services. One thing we reported to the planning board at their last meeting that we had 199 short-term rentals in Pineal Shores, which represented 132 unique properties. Of all of the variety of resources offered by Host Compliance, the one we asked the planning board to consider was whether or not we needed to actually pinpoint each address and property owner of the 132 short-term rentals. That was going to be at a cost of about $9,000 a year. It was the consensus of the planning board that based on the survey results and based on the information we presented on Host Compliance, that we don't take any action with regard to land use controls or engaging Host Compliance with any of their resources, but we focus our efforts on educating the rental companies on what the various regulations in the town are. And so at this point, the planning board is again recommending that we, for lack of a better phrase, put the short-term rental discussion to bed, except for an educational component in the future.
Questions on that?
Yeah, I have one.
Edwards.
I had a citizen stop me when I was driving up and made a comment about the short-term rentals. Wasn't concerned about that at all, but was concerned, and he said it in the same breath, was concerned about the home occupation requirements, or are there any ordinances that affect them? Because he said in his walks with his dog, he noticed there were places that during the day, there's a lot of parking across the street or in front of their houses, and then gone the rest of the time. And he knew home occupations are going on there. And I said, I wasn't sure what that regulation was, so I just bring it to attention. Okay. And then the second breath, that was the first breath. The second breath was he wanted definition of the porta potties on the right of way. And I realized that's been an issue over the last 15 years. So I just bring it from the citizen that stopped me on the side of the road to you.
Well, I appreciate that. We do.
That's
yeah,
not it.
We do have regulations on home occupations, and certainly if there's a particular property that is a concern, be happy to look at that property and make sure they're in compliance with our standards. And also, we do have guidelines on the placement of sanitation facilities at a construction site. We routinely have to remind the contractor and or the person providing that service that they need to properly locate it outside the town right away. And so if there are instances that think there are things that aren't in compliance, please bring them to our attention. If we haven't seen them, we'd be happy to get them under control.
Really use a problem with that all over town. Because after he brought that to my attention, I think I saw at least 7. So just so you're aware.
Who would actually enforce that? Would the police?
Jimmy does that with contractors.
Who does?
Jimmy.
Oh.
Yeah, Jimmy does. Yep.
Okay. Anything else on that?
Just a comment.
That's all I have from a planner's perspective.
Perhaps, when Jimmy goes out and does his periodic inspections, if he notices a porta potty, that's the time to perhaps take some enforcement action and request they move it. Because he's out there for electrical, plumbing, and various times for inspections.
I'll address that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Put on your building inspector hat, Kevin.
I'm just trying to relate.
Yes, folks, for the month of November, we issued 19 building permits, total value $4,204,691. Issued 5 mechanical permits, 10 electrical permits, and 1 plumbing permit. Total value of all permits issued was $4,428,667. Issued 21 tree removal permits and performed a total of 21 inspections for the month of November. And again, with the numbers I reported relative to single-family landscape permits, we continue to see these numbers to climb and expect them to continue to stay steady, at least for the remainder of this fiscal year. That's all I have from a building inspector standpoint as well.
Any questions for Kevin on that? All right. Well, thank you very much, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Thank you all, and happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you, Kevin. Next up is our town clerk, Charlie Rossi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things to update the board on. Sidewalk survey, as we know, closes this Friday, December 10th, and some preliminary results that I got from noon today. So far, we have 650 responses. Of those responses, 55% are part-time residents and 45% are full-time residents. The overall breakdown of the selection of being for or against the sidewalk along Highway 58 is 51.62% in favor and 48.38% against. And obviously, we're still waiting for some results to come in, so we can't make any overarching claims with this data. I think the comments are going to be valuable to the board, and I'm going to come up with a fair representative way to present some of those comments. To give a quick overview of some of them, there's definitely concerns about the environmental impact of sidewalks and impervious surfaces, while on the other side, people think that the safety for pedestrians is invaluable. So we will, yes, sir.
Do you have a sense of, out of all of the 650, did you get 75% of them or so that commented, 50% commented, or any sense of that?
It was a good proportion. I can't give an exact number. I would say pretty close to 50% made comments.
Okay.
So of the 2,200 people we sent it to, 650 is about 30%. So I consider that a very strong response rate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moving forward, year of the tree giveaway, we're planning an event similar to a tree giveaway that we did following Hurricane Florence. I've been working closely with Steve Felch, chairman of the CAC, on this event, and we sent this proposal over to the Arbor Day Foundation, which included an event where we give away 600 trees, including 200 live oaks, 200 sweet bays, and 200 wax myrtles. Along with those, we'll also have 20 pounds of potting soil to give out with the trees, which is essential for those trees to survive while they're planting them. The event, they could not confirm if we could do it on North Carolina Arbor Day, so they gave us a window of March 6th to March 19th. And we also requested that some of these funds be used to redesign the landscaping in Pineal Shores book, which the CAC uses to evaluate their tree inspection processes. And it hasn't been updated in quite a while, so I think it's a a smart move to try to update that book. And I sent this proposal over to the Arbor Day Foundation, and they agreed with all of the parameters that we proposed. So in the January meeting, expect a contract from the Arbor Day Foundation to partner for this event.
Question, Charlie, 200 sweet bays. There has been a recent disease going around killing a lot of the sweet bays. I know especially in Beacon's Reach, and I talked to Steve about it, and he said he had to name what it was and so forth. So I'm just wondering whether or not that disease is going around, is going to continue for a while. Should we be planning more sweet bays? Just what his thought might be regarding that.
I'll talk to Steve about that. And these numbers aren't set yet. We're going to have to see what the rates are from nurseries and see what trees are growing right now and what the going rate for all of them is. But in general, I think live oak is probably the tree that we're most prioritizing of this list.
Yeah, I know Steve, I sent Steve some pictures of some of them up in my property and some others in Beacon's Reach. And then he also issued permits for multiple ones to be taken down that had died really in a matter of a month or two. They just died very quickly.
It's a sweet bay COVID variant.
Something, yeah.
It's a new one, John.
Yeah.
Just Mayor, if I could, just a quick question, and maybe you covered this, I apologize, Charlie. How do you anticipate the giveaway? Do people apply for a tree, or?
We were going to do it on a first come, first served basis with advertising the month prior. And then any trees that are left over, we'd send out a second notice and then possibly work with the HOAs about planting extras in parks and areas where they need them. I know taking in the tree permits recently, I've seen a lot of trees being removed from local parks.
I think maybe it might be a good idea to have agreement. If people receive a tree, at least that they sign that they received them and that it's going to take care of them. It bothers me a bit that people get free trees and just never water them and they die because there's no any commitment. Oh, was I supposed to do that? I've had people actually say that to me. Oh, was I supposed to do that? Just so there's something between the brain and the commitment.
And that's a fair concern. I think that's really part of a larger issue of tree replanting in town. And we're still trying to figure out an effective way to handle that.
Just to let you know, it's a concern.
So, moving forward, Chief Thompson and I met with a representative from Archive Social. They're a firm which specializes in archiving social media posts and comments. And they've recently been employed by the town of Emerald Isle and Carteret County. We believe that this is an insurance policy that the town needs for our social media pages as we continue to grow our use for them. And it's a necessary service that we're going to have moving forward as we continue to post on those social media services. So we spoke with Brian about it and decided we're going to move forward with working with that service.
Okay.
In next year's budget.
Which social media services are you just Facebook or other?
Facebook page for the town, the police department, and the fire department.
Okay.
And just to give you an idea of what they do, if we have a post and someone comments on it and they say something kind of mean, if they delete that, there's no back end on Facebook to archive that comment anywhere. So with this service, we would have that comment archived.
Okay.
Are there competing services that provide this?
Not that I found.
Okay, it's just I'm a little concerned about targeted assignments from the public sector. But that I think that's fine. But.
And lastly, we sent out our request to bid for the Acorn Court Stormwater Project. This request was sent to the North Carolina Hub for Historically Underutilized Businesses, as well as some developers and Brian's contacts who've indicated that they'd like to receive bids going forward. The pre-bid conference for this will be December 16th at 10 o'clock a.m. and the bids must all be submitted by January 5th. The contract will start January 10th and the date of completion is April 1st, 2022.
Okay. Any questions for Charlie on anything he's raised here tonight? Thank you very much, Charlie. Very good report. Okay. That brings us to the second public comment period. give Charlie a minute to check and see if anybody has raised their hand.
Seeing none?
Okay. Commissioner, former Commissioner. Please.
State your address.
You have 3 minutes.
I don't even need that much. I was just going to comment or offer thoughts on the dog park issue. I tend to agree with Ted. We probably really don't need one, but if we do decide we need one, I think that the Curry Trail is a lot better than Esther Woods from the situation of homes being near it, one versus the other. On the project management thing that was brought up, my understanding from previous meetings was that it is more of a true project management job, overseeing, making sure the contracts all get done. Maybe you also have to fold in the financial payments and money exchanges of all that in that. But my understanding was we had a contractor already on the contract that's going to help us with all this FEMA excess money. So my thoughts are just when you're looking for that, it's not so much a financial person as much as a true project schedule, get it done, license it done, keeping track of things, manager. Thoughts on that one. The other one was I was going to mention is the one we had the finance committee meeting on water enterprise fund study, and it'll be dealt with in February. And I was just going to suggest, besides giving all those performance statistics and dealing with that sort of stuff, I would suggest maybe you also offer at the February meeting a proposed solution of how you would handle this cash flow that's needed, and not necessarily decide on it at that meeting, because you can do that next budget, but to have it out there for people to start thinking, oh, you're going to take this money from here to do that, or how you're going to deal with it on that one. The other item, I'm almost done, was, on Clark's good idea about people planting trees and walking away from them. I don't know if it's been done, or if it could be that you could have a tag or even a type piece of paper that how to take care of your tree, keep it healthy. And when somebody takes a tree, you hand them a piece of paper. They may or may not pay attention to it, but at least you'll know that you tried that way. So that's just a thought that you might consider. And the only other question I had then was, your line here where you say excess funds will be used. Funds from what?
Arbor Day.
Funds coming?
From the grant that we received.
Okay, we got a grant for these trees and that. Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you do it in under
Thank
3
you,
minutes?
Larry. Does anybody have any response to any of the things raised by Larry Carcella? Charlie?
The trees will be given out.
Okay.
Good plan.
Thank you. Okay.
Water and tree.
Next agenda item are mayor and commissioners reports. This is your opportunity to raise any issues that you think we need to look at, either discuss tonight or put on the agenda for a future meeting. Does anybody have anything they'd like to raise?
Well, I just have one. I know I've been through COVID and town hall's been closed and so forth. But Charlie, do we have a public bulletin board? It used to be out there as you came in the door on the right-hand side. Is that where notices go up, or do we not have any? Is that where they go? Yeah, okay. That's all.
Anybody else?
No.
Okay, moving right along. At this point, I'd like to entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor of going to closed session?
I think the
Aye.
motion needs to include what we're going to close session for.
We're going to
Specific
close
language.
session to discuss personnel matters. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, before we go on, does anybody want to take a short break, or should we just plow through?
Well, through.
Yeah.
I need the restroom quickly.
Hey, Charlie, am I going to participate in this?
No, Neil, no need to.
Larry, I take female.
Wait a minute, I didn't hear you.
The meter goes.
Neil, no. He said no.
Brian,
All right, so I can go home. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think you said it, right?
Just so you know.
I don't think so. For anything related to what
No.
we're going to talk about.
You can shut the clock off.
Clark says you can turn your clock off, Neil.
Charlie, are you still on?
Agreement is not just an extension, it's a new contract,
Okay, I'm
the
just
way it
saying,
reads.
I'm saying what's happened before, at least the intent.
Neil, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, Neil, you can break.
You can go.
All right, all right. If anybody has any questions, let me know tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, we
All
could ask this question.
Good night. Happy Christmas to everybody.
Hey, thank you, Neil.
Thanks,
You too.
Neil.
All right, bye.
motion to come out of close.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, we're back into public session, and at this point, the only item of business we have on the agenda is the approval of the town manager's employment contract.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second to approve the motion by Commissioner Edwards and a second by Gotzinger. Okay, I think he got you first. Okay. Edwards and then Gotzinger. And any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. We'll sign that. At this point, thank you all very much, and I entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Alicia's really getting quicker.